This morning, the Russian military directed a blitz of missile strikes across Ukraine, shelling cities throughout the country, including Kyiv. The strikes represent the most brutal assault on civilians away from the front lines since the earliest days of the Russian invasion. Ukrainian President Zelensky vowed that his country would rebuild everything that's been destroyed. But given President Biden's recent comments, could things escalate before the Ukrainian people have that chance? Joining me now to discuss this and much more is South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. He serves on 4 committees, including the Senate Budget Committee, where he is the ranking member, as well as the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Graham, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hey, thanks, Tony. Before I forget it, your op-ed piece about my 15-week pain cable bill as a national minimum standard. If your audience hasn't read it, you need to read it, folks. It's the best explanation of what I'm trying to do, or better than what I've been able to provide. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that, Lindsey. And I actually want to get into that in just a moment because I want to talk about that, because since you came out and set that as at least a starting point of conversation, we've now seen kind of this national conversation shift. So I commend you on that. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. But first, your take on President Biden's remarks about Armageddon.
Okay. Well, it was reckless. Mike Pompeo got it right. But, you know, I've been doing this for a while, and it's not what I heard or what you heard or what he said. It's what did Putin hear? And here's my concern, is that Putin heard from those remarks, it's working. I'm in Biden's head. He's on the run. My provocative behavior is rattled Biden. That's why you don't need to say things like that, because it makes Putin harder to deal with.
So is there a diplomatic resolution for the situation there between Russia and Ukraine?
Yeah, Russia needs to withdraw from Ukraine, consistent with the 1994 Budapest Memorandum orders. Complete withdrawal. That will end the military conflict. Then we'll ask Russia to pay for the damage they've done in Ukraine, and we'll start prosecuting Russian war criminals, but that would end the fighting. In 1994, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine became an independent nation, and they did an agreement with the Russians and the British and the United States. The Ukrainians had the 3rd largest nuclear force on the planet, to the Russians, with the understanding, to do this, you will observe our territorial integrity, you will leave us alone, you will respect our... The borders in 94 included the great bait and switch. He took the nukes, invaded the country. But in this conflict, without Putin going completely, because if you do it that way,
Lindsey, we've lost you. We're going to see if we can reconnect and get a better connection with you. Senator Lindsey Graham, he's on the road back in South Carolina, and I want to make sure that we can hear everything that he is saying. So we're going to reconnect with him. The stakes are high here, and I think he's absolutely right. Russia is watching how we're reacting to this and how our administration, are they reacting with confidence? Are they reacting with hand-wringing? I mean, this is significant in how we respond to this. Now, also I'm going to talk with him about, Putin is kind of being backed into a corner. His military has been decimated, and he's been on this stage for quite some time. Talking about Senator Graham. He's been around, he understands, and I'm wondering if Putin will accept a diplomatic resolution to this, or does America need to be prepared for something else? See, do we have Senator Graham back yet? All right, we're still trying to reconnect with him. Modern technology is great when it works. All right, Senator, you there?
Yeah, I think the Russians knocked me off the air. Sorry about that.
Wouldn't be surprised. So I made this statement while we're reconnecting with you. You've been on this stage for a while. You've run for president. You, as I mentioned, and I wasn't blowing smoke, I think you are one of the best when it comes to foreign policy in the Senate. So you know Putin. Is Putin going to walk away from this? I mean, his military has been decimated. No. He's been humiliated on the national stage. He's a dangerous man, in my view.
Yeah, so how does this war end? As I was saying, I don't know if you could hear it. In 1994, the Ukrainians gave up their nuclear force, which was the third largest on the planet, with a promise by the Russians called the Budapest Memorandum that they would honor Ukrainian sovereignty, leave them alone, and that included the Crimea and the Donbass. So here we are later. Putin tears up that agreement like Hitler did in Munich and trying to take land by force. If you could go back in time, do you think the Ukrainians would give up their nukes? No. So this has to end right. And what is ending right? The Russians need to withdraw completely from the Ukraine back to the 1994 boundaries. Putin needs to be prosecuted as a war criminal because he is. And that's the only way this can end. So there is no off-ramp. I don't want to alarm you, but there's no off-ramp. There's no way for this war to end with Putin still standing. And what I think is going to happen, if the Ukrainians keep fighting, and they will, if we keep helping them, they will be successful on the battlefield. Somebody's going to take Putin out in Russia because with him, he's going to destroy the country, and they're not going to let that happen.
But you're going to have to separate the Russian people from the Russian leadership and those involved in the war crimes. And I'm a little concerned. And I agree with you in terms of making Russia pay for the reconstruction. But that gets us back to, World War I, Germany, and what led up to World War II.
Yeah, so what did we learn? 21 years after the end of the First World War, we had the Second World War. So Hitler used the Versailles Agreement as a betrayal of sellout of the Jews of Germany, right? That the Versailles Agreement was humiliating to the German people. They lost World War I, and the Jews created the Versailles Agreement, stabbed Germany in the back. Okay, how does this war end? I've got no beef with the Russian people. I'd like to have a good relationship with them. Putin's their leader. For 20 years, he's been killing people right and left. He invaded the Crimea in 2014. Now he's trying to dismember Ukraine, and he will keep going until somebody stops him. So how does this end? I said it early on. The Ukrainians are not going to give up their country, part of it, to Putin by force of arms. He signed an agreement in '94. Russia did. Now he's breaking it. So how does it end?
Yeah.
The Russian people will take care of this problem. Now,
yes,
I am not into punishing Russia like we did the Germans. I am to ending this war on favorable terms.
Senator, before I get into this discussion about the Payne bill, I want to ask you a question. As a member of the Judiciary Committee, some of your colleagues on the House side alarmed that the FBI is being politicized, where we've seen now arrest of pro-life leaders, look like raids going into their homes for violations of the FACE Act, some of them nearly a year later. Are you concerned that the FBI has been politicized under this administration?
Absolutely. How could you not be? Look at what happened to Crossfire Hurricane. That was the last administration. They investigated President Trump for connections with Russia. Their subsource, a guy on the payroll with the FBI, a Russian guy, told them in January everything in my dossier, the Steele dossier, was bar talk, rumor, and innuendo, and they kept getting warrants. They ran every stop sign. What did they do in terms of parents going to school boards protesting wokeness? They wanted to make them domestic terrorists. Now you have pro-life people being arrested for expressing themselves. Yes, I'm worried about it. Now, the average FBI agent out there, a guy or a gal, is doing a great job defending America against crime and drugs. But, yeah, I'm worried about it. And when we get the House and Senate back, we need to do more than worry about it. We need to hold our, pardon my French, into the House and Senate and ask them hard questions.
So, continuing this line of the way this administration has politicized the Department of Justice, called parents domestic terrorists, they went along with the National School Boards Association that used that term.
Right.
But this is typical of the left, this politics of personal destruction. And you saw this with Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, talk a little bit about that, how they make these allegations at a critical moment, and then the media kind of fuels it. And then when it's all said and done, the allegations just evaporate.
Okay, this is a playbook. Let's go back to our previous conversation. What is Putin doing? He's taking a page out of Hitler's playbook, justifying invading neighboring countries because some of them talk Russian. Well, that's what Hitler did. I'm going in to take care of German people. So history does repeat itself. So what happened with him? The guy led an exemplary life, worked for President Bush, one of the best candidates ever nominated by a Republican to be on the Supreme Court, highly qualified. We get into the hearing the last day now, okay? You understand this? Follow this closely. This is the last day. Out of nowhere, Dianne Feinstein says, well, I've had this letter. I just want to give it to you. I think I should. It's a letter accusing Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault with Dr. Ford, Blasey Ford, right? It comes in the last day after the hearing's about to wrap up. Every Democrat had met with him. Nobody, including Feinstein and Kamala Harris, ever acknowledged the letter while he was in their office. They blindside the guy with this bombshell letter. The Washington Post publishes the letter in detail. They already leaked it to them, and the rest is history. We have hearings. We stop the process. We call another round of hearings. We bring in Dr. Ford. We bring in people. Kavanaugh comes in to testify. It was one of the most despicable moments in my political career. They had 5 people come forward accusing Kavanaugh of different things. 3 of them literally made it up. The other person, the Avenatti witness, made no sense. She went to 9 different parties where people were being drugged and raped. Don't you think one party with that would be enough? Why would you go to 9 of them? It made no sense. They tried to destroy the man's life, and we won because Trump stood behind him, and I think I helped by just being outraged. This is their playbook. Now let's fast forward. This is October, late September, early October. All of a sudden you hear this about Herschel Walker, right? Herschel's had his problems. He's been upfront about who he is. He's saved by redemption. Do you think it's a surprise or an accident, these allegations that are allegations that he's denied comes out in October? This is the way they do business. They try to destroy conservatives who want to be judges, and they want to destroy particularly African-American candidates like Herschel because they're afraid of
Well, they did it.
And it ain't
they
gonna
did
work.
it to Clarence Thomas. They did it to Clarence Thomas when he
Ford.
was nominated.
Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're right. And Judge Bork.
I've had it with it. I mean, I'm going to Georgia to help Herschel. Herschel will change this country. This is about the families that listen to this radio program and the families of Georgia. Warnock's got his problems. Herschel's got his problems. He's been accused of something he denies vehemently. I'm standing with Herschel. When Herschel goes to Washington, he will secure our border. He will deal with crime, not empower it. He will stand up against out-of-control spending. He will be against liberal judges. Herschel will be good for the families of Georgia. It's about the people in Georgia. And this effort to destroy this man's life is not going to work.
I've seen it. It's happened to me when I've been a candidate. I mean, it's just they destroy it and then it goes by the wayside.
It happens to
when
me
they can't
like
prove
every 3 months. The way I know I'm doing something right is when they come after me. If they're coming after me the way they always do, it means I'm good enough.
Well, that's what happens when you come on this program. I watch your Twitter feed. So, all right, Senator. We're
comfortable.
I just very quickly the issue of abortion. I'm going to play this clip very quickly. I don't know if you have time to respond to it, but play this clip of that aired over the weekend of this is Stacey Abrams.
The arbitrary standards of timelines ignore the medical reality that it is a fallacy. We know exactly when a pregnancy starts, that we know exactly where we are in the system. I mean, in the term.
15 seconds. How do you respond to that?
She's an extremist that denies science, that wants to marginalize the unborn. A disaster for Georgia. She supports abortion on the man up at the moment of birth. Don't make her a governor of anything.
The left has extreme positions. They won't draw the line anywhere. Senator, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. God bless.